Welcome to On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains. You've hit the spot. The place where the conversation is pointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. Put your thinking caps on, because the conversation starts now. Welcome to On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains. This is your favorite spot. The place where the conversation is pointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. Before we get started into this conversation, I want to let you know that this is not PG. This is maybe RX or XX, because we are talking about sexual exploration, the sexual revolution, becoming uninhibited, letting your freak side come out. But also, what is this thing called kink? People get kink and queer. Those are two totally different things. What is it to be safe and consensual? What is it to let your inner inhibitions rise? What is it to be held down and be bonded? What does it feel like to be in total control? We're going to talk to Lorna Gale from Canada. She is a sexual, spiritual, embodiment, and empowerment guide. She teaches bondage, and she's an intuitive healer and a story unweaver. We're going to talk about all that and then some. Let's welcome her to the show. How are you, Lorna?
I'm really well. Thank you, April. It's a thrill to be here with you, and I'm excited for what we will share together and what will come out of our mouths and in support of our people that are listening today.
Right. Well, I mean, you look like, Little Miss Muffet, ultra conservative. What in the world got you in the world of kink and bondage, but beyond that, training people?
Great question. And it's one of those things that people have said, would you have thought you would be here years ago? Kind of like, no, nowhere on my radar. And you hit on something in terms of the conservative piece. That's certainly how I was raised. And the whole aspect of sexuality was really not talked about in our home. We had the 4 life cycle books that were left on our coffee table. That was our sex education. So this whole idea of being a somatic sex educator and supporting people in coming into their sexual wholeness was totally different. So my midlife sexual awakening is what brought me to this place of teaching sexuality, and then this whole piece of the kink and the domination. That was a whole new unfolding. It just kind of like, oh yeah, this fits. So it's been quite a journey.
Well, first of all, let's dial back a little bit. There are so many people that are uptight about sex. Sex is one of the greatest gifts that we were given to be able to connect, be it male-female, male-male, female-female. And you don't know what you like until you try it. There is a lot of rules and regulations based upon religious doctrine or upbringing or shame or fear around sex and sexuality. So when you find that, you're a little bit above the curve, you're ashamed of that. How do you explain that? How do you explore that? A lot of times people start with pornography because then they have a visual aid. Then they start doing things. But people really tend to judge others that have different sexual experiences. Tell me, what's been some of your experiences with some of your clients in those spaces?
Wow. A lot of times when, as a somatic sex educator, people will come to me for different coaching. And with the men in particular, oftentimes it gets shared over the course of our sessions together. They're actually looking for being dominated. And so there's this whole aspect, as you say, that where it's sort of underground and below the surface. And so when people can do that, then we shift into, okay, let's go into the domination submission piece of things. And that's been really powerful for a lot of people. Women, when they arrive as well, they sometimes aren't aware that that's a part of them. And so for me, it's about helping women to step into their power, into their knowing their voices. And I also look at it in this whole aspect of the sexuality and the spirituality is by design, how from our spiritual, when you talk about the religious piece of things, by design, we have been taught it's outside of us, the authority, the permission, all of these things. And I go back even to the Garden of Eden story, you know, where here it was here's the apple on the tree, and the serpent, you know, spiraling up around the tree, and how this apple is plucked off, and, you know, Eve gives it to Adam. And as the story is told, is that Adam did that, and then all of a sudden, you know, the flames and the lightning, and sort of you're now
loose.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, I like to look at things as a mirror, and a mirror has been pivotal in my own journey and how I use it with people as well, and in the story. So I say, when we look in a mirror, we're actually seeing things opposite. So let's use the story of the Garden of Eden and look at it. If that's what is the reverse opposite of it, let's look at it. So it's actually, apples are aphrodisiacs. The serpent is actually talking about is that kundalini, that erotic sexual energy that's alive within us. That the woman giving that to him is actually representative of feminine leadership. And we can look at, from a human perspective, feminine leadership and the masculine being in service to the woman, the feminine. And we can also look at the spiritual part of things, in that feminine is actually the flow, the energy, the masculine is the form. So it's this whole aspect of the feminine energy, the feminine leadership initiative it's a natural thing for the masculine to flow into that form. So here is the woman, the feminine, inviting the man into the sexual erotic experience. So instead of, as we've been taught, that it's this shame, and okay, we have to go there, you know, and here's the fig leaves, cover up, you know, the breasts and cover up the genitals. And here's this thing now, this perpetual journey of coming back to the divine, coming back to this connection of God that's been separated by sex. It's actually, that's the opposite, because it is through sex that we come from spirit into this human experience.
Right. But so also it shows the submission of man.
Exactly, that's right. And
so
it's a natural thing. That's right. Most of the men that come to me in sessions are wanting to find out, how can I be the best man that I can be for my woman? I want to please her. I want to protect her. I want to provide for her. That is the heart of men. And so let's
talk a little bit about S&M.
Okay.
What is S&M?
You know, it's actually kind of an interesting thing. You can look at it as sadism and masochism. So that's where we look at BDSM. There's different, there's bondage, there's domination, there's submission, and we can look at it different initials together and what they mean. If you look at sadism, it's somebody who likes to inflict pain. A masochist is somebody who likes to receive pain. So if we look at and back up in that acronym of BDSM, that we end up having DS, so domination and submission. And there's a lot of times where there's a male dom and a submissive female. In my own journey, because I'm in this feminine body, most of the people who come to me are males who are looking for being in that submissive place, being in service, to literally be at my feet in service. And for me, it's just from my work of women coming to me as a somatic sex educator, they want to connect to their sexuality. Men want to learn to be in service. So it's just a natural thing that this domination submission piece starts to come up. And so I've done femdom trainings where I teach women to really connect into their pleasure, into their voice. What do they want? And to have these men that are there in service to them. So to be able to empower
you keep using the term in service. Okay, so that's a new way. Instead of saying submission, it is in service. All right, but let's go a little bit deeper, because brains, I've lived. Okay, I've seen some things. Okay, and again, it is, you know, like the plastic ball in the mouth. Like the blindfold, you know, I dig the blindfold, I dig the handcuffs, you know, a little spanking here and there, a little paddling there, you know, that's okay. But some go really intense. I mean, the latex suits, the choking. I have someone that I know, I better be careful how I say this, someone that I know wants to choke the person. And we don't mean, some strangle, but others choke with the penis, trying to suppress the penis down the throat. And you will hear sometimes when they say that a child has been sexually assaulted or murdered or whatever, that is because of that. Why is it so intense to get to that point of pleasure? I don't understand, I don't understand it. Can you help me understand it?
I think, April, in some ways, and I can't speak for everyone, obviously, in my own experience and working with hundreds of people, is that I think in some ways it comes down to this piece about being able to feel that, whether it's feeling physically, whether it's feeling emotionally, whether it's feeling safe, that so much of our human journey has been where we haven't felt safe, or we haven't had things done in a consensual way. And so when in the kink and in this in the BDSM world, that there's opportunity to feel. I speak of one of my clients who, as a young girl, was sexually assaulted by one of her neighbors, a male, and anal penetration. And so when she came to me, for her to be able to receive anal penetration, it was actually because she was now in charge. She was the one to say yes or no. And so she was able to reclaim her body. She was able to reclaim her voice and to be able to say yes or no. I think that's a big part of things, is for people to, because in the kink world, it's about consent. It's
Right.
consent is just foundational.
So, and safety.
That's right. Yeah. And so to be able to have it that people are being able to say, I want this, okay, and stop. Okay, just pause. So it's like they're reclaiming their ability to feel, to have their voices. And the way that we have all, through our human experience, been told that it's okay to feel some things, but not. So the way I give it, and again, this is broad stroke, women in general have been taught it's okay to feel emotional because you're emotional, you're a woman, but don't feel sexual. Men have been taught you're sexual, like for women, don't feel sexual or you're a slut, so then it's all of a sudden there's a negative connotation there to their sexuality. For men, it's you're sexual, boys will be boys, so do that, you're a real stud, but don't feel emotional, don't cry, toughen up, big boys don't cry. So on various levels, we're taught to not feel. And as we can start to come into this place of empowerment for whoever we are, whatever gender and sexual orientation we are, it's this opportunity to feel all of it. And as we can start to, sometimes this thing about, well, why the pain? Why does there have to be pain? Sometimes it can be that things have to be felt so much because we've shut down our ability to feel. And we do that by getting busy. I'm feeling a certain thing, whether it's pleasure or irritation. I'm going to get busy. I'm not going to do that. And pretty soon we get this armoring that happens on our bodies that we don't feel. So sometimes that pain is necessary to break through to that place to be able to feel what is underneath there. And what's fascinating is that, and I talk about a pleasure cap, that sometimes people, when they're orgasming, they maybe orgasm here because that shows where their pleasure cap is. And so I teach different times of, okay, just breathe. If you're starting to feel, when I'm doing my Bondassage sessions or my erotic massage sessions, I say, if 10 is the point of or if 10 is orgasm or ejaculation, they're not the same thing. If 10 is ejaculation or orgasm, 9 is the point of no return. Let me know when you get to an 8. And so as they build, it's in an 8. Okay, we spread the energy, just spread it and go on. And then what it does, it allows it to come up a little bit higher that they can feel. So we're raising their pleasure cap. And what's fascinating is that people, as they can connect into something that has been painful, whether it's been a trauma, emotional trauma, psychological trauma, as they can feel into those things, it actually raises their pleasure cap. As we raise the pleasure cap, it actually taps into the ability to feel something that here before that had been, it feels too dangerous, it feels too unsafe to feel this. And so it really expands our ability to feel all that is available to us in this human experience.
Yeah, I've had sex educators say, when you get to the point before you orgasm or before you ejaculate, slow down so that you can extend, again, like you say, the pleasure cap. It doesn't have to be, 5 minutes.
No.
You can go as long as you can control it. There's a couple of things that I want to touch on is that, I had a family member tell me, had 5 children, and she was in her 80s, told me she has never had an orgasm. And I felt so bad for her.
Yeah.
It is the ultimate erotic pleasure, but it's in your mind. What happens is in your genitalia, you're going to feel and you're going to release. But the whole thing is in your heart. It's in the pulsation of your blood. What you're imagining. I mean, you could be in the bed with somebody that looked like a booger wolf and think that it's the greatest, most sexual person in the world. It is about using your imagination and allowing, again, yourself to feel. Quick little story. I was at work one day. I was sitting next to my best friend, and I looked down at her legs, and I saw all these webs. And I said, "Have you been camping? It looks like you've been bit by a bug." And she goes, "No, it was me. It was me and Tom." And I said, "You and Tom? What happened? He scratched you up?" She says, "No, he's got a new toy. He's got this little leather whip." And I was like, and she said, "Every time I run my hands across them, I just orgasm." I said, "Well, don't be orgasm here at work. Cover that shit up." So the sensation, again, is a snapshot in your mind, and the expectation of what it's just like, you're going to go on a date and you know what this person's going to look like and what they taste like and what they smell like and what they feel like. And you get excited just at the mere thought. Yeah. I'm like that with Mr. Magnificent, my husband. He'll clear his throat in the store, and I get excited because I know what to expect. Okay, so now let's go into this bondage thing. Give me some examples of bondage. Like I said, I've seen the ball in the mouth, the mask, the leather, all of that. What does that? Why do you need to have the theatrics?
A big part of it comes down to different sensations, and yet a big part of it comes down to control. Is a lot of people, whether it's working, throughout the day, they're busy making decisions, whether it's a housewife or a CEO of a company. There's this idea of making decisions and being in charge. And there's this part about, I just want to let go of control. I want somebody else to be in control. And so the whole thing about the ball in the mouth, it takes away that ability to speak. And that even something that is, even the thing about able to open their mouth or speak, that now is restricted. So it's kind of that control is taken away. So it's about really shifting from what we've been used to into a totally different role. So that would be, nope, I don't want you to talk. So to keep you from talking, I'm going to put this ball gag in. So there we go. The bondage, there's different ways, and sensory deprivation is another way, the blindfolds, right? And
yeah, that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool, Brains, when you can't see what's coming at you.
That's right. That's right. And our sight is actually one of our most prominent senses. So to take that way, what it does, it makes us hyper alert through our other senses and open feeling more. Bondage, there's different ways of doing it. There's the rope work that can happen. And sometimes that can be very, very erotic. And this sense of being bound, that creates that sense of safety as well. It's just being held, because when there's that trust with somebody who's doing that with you, you're being bound, and it allows you to let go and relax in. And sometimes in our day-to-day world, we don't have opportunity or don't take the opportunity to relax very much. But this allows the whole body, including the nervous system, to relax into that. When I do my Bondassage, and when I do my DS sessions as well, there's different types of bondage that I use. But in the Bondassage, we've got leather cuffs on them, and then I tie them to the table. Their hands are tied, stretched out, their legs are stretched out, and they're tied up. They can't move. And again, it creates that word, that coming back to your word of surrender, allows them to surrender in. And the trust is a big part of it. When they know that they can let go, it just allows them to melt into the table and be open to feel and to receive. What's actually kind of an interesting thing is, and it's not necessarily to do with the bondage itself, but it comes up, is that aspect of anal penetration and pegging. We come from a world or an experience where, again, we're separated. Here's women, here's men. And even our world, as it's coming to awaken to that there's intersex, there's all kinds of on the whole spectrum. It's not this dichotomy like we've been taught. But there's this part, it comes back to how men have been taught, don't be a sissy, don't be a wuss. And so there's this whole aspect of the feminine or females being somehow less than. And again, there's the mirror thing, because we actually realize that feminine is not superior as in better than, but superior and not superior. And it is about over in terms of being in charge. And so when men have been taught to be, and women have been taught that men or the masculine is, the head of the home and all of those things. And again, that's the opposite. But it's actually men then view the feminine aspect as less than. And I know that I speak that very generally because there are hundreds and thousands of men who are literally in service to, in support of, and doing everything that they can for women, their wives, their partners, their daughters, in every way they can to make their worlds better.
Right. But you know what? It hurts me to fart.
There you go.
But anal penetration, I have seen some things. Yeah. Fisting.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just don't even know where people even get the idea of wanting. I mean, I've seen fisting to where the fist can almost go as far as, I would think that all of my organs would be discombobulated. And people say that, they have been to the sex shops, and I've seen the little cones that they lay over to prepare themselves for this. And they say that it is very stimulating, anal sex for women. You're touching the back part of the uterus, and it's very stimulating. They say that the anus is extremely pliable. People think, oh, if I have anal sex, it's going to, cause me to have diarrhea and all that. That, they enjoy it. I have some friends that, they're pretty risque. They put methamphetamine, I guess, on the tip of their penis, and I forgot what they call it, but anyway, and then they have anal sex. They say that orgasm goes on for hours. Mm-hmm. So I get it, but just, again, introducing these things, how do people get introduced? They come to you and say, okay, well, Lorna, you've got a full suite of services here. Let's try this. Let's try that. How do they even begin to think that they want to do something, kink?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sometimes, and some people will have said, I have no idea where I got the idea from. I don't remember seeing or reading or hearing anything about it, but there's this idea that keeps coming. So okay, well, let's explore that. For some people, they might have heard it. So it really varies. And then it's just kind of okay, let's explore, let's do this. And it's always about helping for them to feel empowered in connection with their body. Anal sex should never be painful. And even though getting through the sphincters, it can be like, oh, whatever, it still needs to be prepared in the sense that it's not going to rip or damage. Mm-hmm. And yes, the anus it's rich with nerves. And so such an incredible place to be there. And I think that's where, because of our aspect of, don't be a wuss. So men there's that homophobic piece, but it's as men can, whether it's through their own touch, through using a dildo, whether it's through being pegged, however it is, or, with the hand. Pegged is when, if I were to wear a harness and I've got a penis, I've got a a silicone penis on and to be pegged. So I would stand behind them and I would peg them. I would basically fuck them in their ass with my
she just went right there. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Yeah. And so
Well,
and I think
at the sex store, I've seen the glass. I would be scared that would, break or rupture or get warm. I wouldn't touch that. I wouldn't touch that.
I would say for myself, when I use the glass ones, it's when I'm holding it in my hand, so it's not as a dildo itself. Because for me, I just really want to make sure that it's always safety is paramount.
Right.
And so to be careful that way. But one of the things about glass and all of them really silicone, glass, metal. I've got a stainless steel barbell that I've used. But it's not a dildo, but it's just a barbell. But it's actually fascinating because it warms to the body. So I love the hot and cold sensation of various things. So if it's the glass or the metal, then it's that cold sensation. It's kind of like, oh, for some people it's kind of, oh, but other people it's kind of, oh. So playing around with temperature as well can be a real joy, and playing with different sensations. And then it warms up with the body temperature. So it's really quite amazing.
Okay, now Lorna, you do you put on your full regalia? I mean, if they want that, and then you have sessions and you actually go through the simulated sex act so that this person finds pleasure and you talk them through this process? Wow.
Yeah, well, it's actually interesting. When I first started in Bondassage, I've got my wardrobe of my different corsets and, my leathers and fishnet stockings and my high heels and my big boots and stuff like that. And I used to wear them thinking, that's what I needed to do. And I realized, what do I want to wear? And so again, it starts to switch this idea of the woman being for the man. So they're coming and I need to please them. I need to titillate them. It's rather than, no, they are here to come to be in submission, in service. What do I feel like wearing? And so as I wear, and this is what I teach the women when I take them through as Bondassage practitioners, when I take them through this as well, I say, what do you feel like wearing? Because when you're wearing what you want to wear, whether it's leggings and a tunic or your leathers or a negligee, whatever you feel like wearing, you are in your power. And it is that the men are saying, I want to be with a woman who is in her power. And rather than, okay, what does he want me to wear? Am I going to please him? It diminishes who we are. It's not us being our power. We are then being for the man again, rather than I'm going to step into my power, because it's the goddess, the queen, that the men are saying, we recognize the feminine, we recognize and want to be in service and support and submit to this. And so that's where, what do I wear? Whatever I feel like.
Wow. What age range? I mean, just you have all ages. People start exploring their sexuality.
I've had, trying to think of what the youngest, I mean, as far as obviously of age when they come from my somatic sex education sessions, but even there, so as young as in their early 20s. And all the way up, I've had people that are in their 70s, even approaching into their 80s. So, yeah.
Well, I had another one of my friends asked me to take her to the sex shop because she wanted to get some toys. Well, I was embarrassed because it was my friend's mother. And I was like, well, why did you ask me to take you? She says, because you're cool. She said, because you're cool and I can trust you. And I was like, okay, well, I felt comfortable with that. Well, when we left, she says, oh, I bought some wonderful things and I even got extra batteries. And she was there. And your sex drive, I'm telling you, mine increased at like 40, 45. I became this beast. You have the sexual energy. Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about self-gratification and masturbation. Parents, you want to consider this and you want to think about this, that if you don't know how the appliance works, you don't know what you'll like. As long as your child is not being violated or they're penetrating others, that you have open conversation, you can say the word anus, penis, vagina, breasts. A lot of young girls do what is it called? Have oral sex, give head. What is that? What's that big $25 word? Flex begins with an F. I forgot what you call it. But anyway, they're doing that because they don't want to get pregnant. They're having anal sex, but they're also being violated if they are not consenting to this. You need to be clear and have the talk about sex on an ongoing basis. It's not a dirty word. Yeah. It's something that's happening every day, all day, and you don't want your child to be taken advantage of. If it's not a mystery to them and it becomes second nature, they will become more relaxed. They won't become, I don't think they'll become more promiscuous. I talked to my daughter about it 5, 6 years old, good touch, bad touch, with stranger danger. It's a part of that conversation. You can tell if your child is something's going on with them. But these young boys now, I had someone on my show, they masturbate till they turn blue in the face. They are addicted to porn. Mm-hmm. How do we talk to them about stabilizing and understanding if this is just obsession, or if this is a fascination, or if there's really a problem there?
Mm-hmm. Great question, April. And I know that a big part of it comes back to the sex education that parents will give to their children is really dependent on that parent's experience, not only of their experience of what sex education they received, but their whole sex experience and their ability to be at home and at peace and in harmony, connected to their own sexuality. Because if parents are feeling disconnected, they're feeling confused, they're feeling guilty, all of those things, it's not going to be an easy thing for them to have a conversation with their children, because they're just going to pass along the same thing. If they're feeling like, I can't talk about it, how can they talk about it with their children? So I think it really becomes a matter of people dealing with their own sexuality, coming back to being connected to it and dealing with it, whether it's, they come to me as a somatic sex educator, online sessions, in person, whatever it is, to be able to come back into their own so that they can feel connected to their own sexuality, so that then what they do share with their children is coming from a more wholesome, natural, relaxed way. And I am very much an advocate. In fact, I've got my 4 young grandchildren here that are all under they were 10 and under when I give them the makeup mirrors, that are the one side regular, one side magnified on a little stand. And I make sure that they, and this is what I recommend to parents as well, make sure your children have a mirror, whether it's a full length mirror in their bedroom, but someplace where they can have privacy to look at and explore their parts and see what they look like, to touch them and to look at them while they're touching, so that they can feel at home with their own bodies. I had a stretch of time where I was going through leading women in a retreat, taking them through genital mapping. And so I was there propped up with my robe on, and I was naked, and I had my mirror, had my little thing of coconut oil, and the women, they were propped up on a bed, 3 or 4 of them side by side with their mirrors, their coconut oil, naked with their robes. And I said, okay, I'm going to take you on a journey of your genitals. And I would teach them the parts and invite them to touch, hear, and hold, to feel. And one of the women, she was 73 years old, she said, this is the first time I've ever seen my parts. And so when we can give our children the gift of knowing that sex is what we come from, sex is natural, sex is good, it's not dirty, it's not shameful. That was my midlife sexual awakening, was when I realized this isn't. And that was where my 180 degree from being shamed, disconnected, totally disconnected from my sexuality, to 180 degree instantaneous, and talking about naturally, easily, and taking my teaching gift and credentials into teaching in the erotic realm of things.
Wow.
For me, it's about helping people to know that it is natural. And when do we start providing sex education for our children? The moment they're born. And it's not about enforce anything, but just naturally, just like we have milk for babies and then little gradually introduce solids along the way, and then different flavors and different spices and various things. So too it is with sexuality, that if we're always hiding our sexuality, if we're always looking at it as it's shameful, that's the environment our children will grow up in. And so when they do their explorations, whether with other people, other children, or through porn, that they're coming from this place of outside of themselves, rather than feeling at home in their own sexuality, feeling empowered, so that when the boy says, hey, if you want to be my girlfriend, you have to give me head, and she can say, then I'm not going to be your girlfriend, because
Right.
they're in that place of
'Cause
empowered.
I'm not excited about it, and I'm the one in control.
That's right. That's right.
Well, this is expensive too. This is an expensive hobby, brains. I've Bondassage. Okay, to take a course with you, just throw out a figure, maybe not specifically, but how long? It just depends on an individual, just like talk therapy or Reiki or anything else with a practitioner. And then all of the, the clothes and the different tools and all that, and finding someone that you trust to go on this journey with you. It can be expensive on many levels, not just monetary,
Yeah.
but an emotional expense.
Exactly. And yeah, absolutely. With the Bondassage training, it varies. There's Elysium, which is it is Bondassage, but on a more sensual thing. Instead of the leather cuffs and the ropes, there's silky things. So there's still that aspect of being restrained. But it's just slow touch. There's not any of the whips and the cropping and the sensation play that way. It's just really slow touch. So I do that. That's a 2-day training. The Bondassage training is a 2-day training. Do them together in one, and we just sort of roll them into one and into a 3-day training. So that I do those trainings. And then for some people, they've had some experience with BDSM before, and so we just go ahead and do the training. For some people, in fact, I've got a training that's coming up next month, and she hasn't had any experience before other than what we have done in-person sessions when she's come for sessions, and I've taken her through various components of things. So we've scheduled 2 full days in advance where I do some skills training with her. I'll teach her how to spank. I'll teach her how to do the flogger and the cane and the crops and how to tie up. So I'll do those kinds of things. So it really varies. Right now, that 5-day package is about $10,000 Canadian. And that's an investment. Like you say, it's an investment.
It's an investment to get your freak on.
That's exactly right.
But it's lifelong. But let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Honestly, do you get off on this too? I mean, when I first met you and I talked to you, it seemed like you were almost in a trance-like state. And it's all right, that you feel exuberated, and you feel that you are in control. You are the queen of the dom. I get that the power, but does it really give a sensation to you? I mean, how can you see these people go through this and have these orgasms, know that you're in charge, and separate yourself from this whole experience?
It's a great question. When I first started as a somatic sex educator, I really shut down any feelings and sensations that I had, because I'd been taught, in terms of marriage, that's where my feelings of eroticism belong, is in that package of marriage. They don't belong anywhere else. And it took me several years to be able to allow myself to relax in. And while I don't have sex with my clients, I still have these sensations that arise. And I think that's a part of the aliveness of life, is when we shut those things down, we're shutting down the essence of who we are as human beings and as sexual erotic beings. There's a quote, Audre Lorde, and I love it. It's been my mainstay, my foundational quote, all of these years, 13, 14 years that I've been practicing this. And it's, we tend to think of the erotic as a quick, tantalizing sexual arousal. I speak of the erotic as that deepest life force energy that moves us in a fundamental way. And that to me just really connects us into the spirit, the essence of who we are. And when we are shutting down that erotic energy, we are shutting down or denying the spiritual aspect of who we are as well. And so for
You know
me, it's
what?
been to allow myself to really be connected, and allow myself to feel things, because then that's when we can be in that place of aliveness. That's what allows the vulnerability and the openness to happen, for everybody to open into the truth of who they are and what they want to express and experience in those times.
Brains, let me turn you on to something. Um, I've listened to it a million times. Think and Grow Rich. There is a whole chapter on sex and sexuality and the power and the energy of sex. It has still taken down countries, destroyed marriages. And I ask myself sometime, every time you turn around on television, men mostly, but there's a lot of women that are surfacing as well. They are taken down because they've had multiple partners or sexual indiscretion or money. But it's usually always the pussy that gets them out of control. They can't function without it, and they have multiple partners. And I asked myself, I said, there's countries where men can have 4 or 5 wives. It's not a problem. Does that cause a man, and I'm just using men as an example right now, to not be able to make good decisions? Does that cause him to be, disloyal or dishonest? Sometimes I think about your integrity when you sneak and you lie and you do this. But now there's all of these polyamorous relationships. People have open marriages. They're saying, you know what, why even have that as a deal breaker? Let's have some rules of engagement. And if we follow those rules, it's fine. People break the rules, though. They're with the person that they're not supposed to be with. Your sexuality is between your legs. Your gender identity is between your ears. And it's a whole lot different now because the transgender community is coming at full force. The millennials don't want to be a he or a she. They're a they or a we. They're non-binary. Mm-hmm. What is going on in the sexual revolution? What are you seeing, Lorna?
I see it, and the way I put it is actually, it's a awakening of humanity, but it's more than that. I would say it's a spiritual awakening that's happening, because we have been taught for so long this idea that we're separate from God, and however we wanted to, we're separate from God, the universe, source, whatever words we want to have. And we've been this dichotomy of here's females and men, and this journey of trying to come, we have to look for our partner, we have to find our other half, and this journey of coming back to find, as if there's this wholeness. And I would say that this journey with the gays coming out of the closet, and all of these different, the two spirits and the queers, and whatever label we want to put on it, what we are is we're all in this human experience, regardless of what labels we have. And some people identify with a certain gender, and other people, because that's what feels true for them. Other people, it's because, well, that's what I've been taught I am. Right. And so this whole awakening to, well, who am I? I thought that was the only option that there was. And so this whole awakening to these various gender expressions is, I see that as this awakening to, we aren't two. We are all on this journey in this expression, however we are, but we're not this dichotomy like we thought. There's not this duality like we thought. And so I see this as, it's an awakening, not only coming into the oneness of our humanity, that what I do to the other, I do to myself. It's that. And for me, I guess I see it very much as a spiritual awakening, because instead of looking outside for pleasure, outside of our permission, or outside as the authority, it's this coming back home into this authority within, this wholeness within. And that's where I was going with that piece about the anal penetration, is that for men to be penetrated, it's actually connecting into their feminine receptivity. But if we've been taught that the feminine women is wrong, then of course there's that homophobic piece, but it's not what we've been taught. There's something wrong, but it's connecting into, we're actually all of it. It's all of us within. We're all spirit. We're all form. Spirit being feminine, form being masculine. We're all of it here. And
well,
so
it's very biblical. It's very biblical because the Bible even says, there's going to be a point where you will not be able to distinguish male from female. And I'm seeing it more now. We were at the movie theater going to see Barbie. Cutest little pigtails and makeup on, all this kind of stuff. And as soon as they opened their mouth, it was a boy. Or, the gender role. And as you said, you are taught these gender roles. Boys play with trucks, they wear jeans, they are rough, they're rugged, they don't cry, they fight, they're the hunter, the gatherer, they don't, you don't have any of this. So a dear friend of mine, it was shocking to me because she's a world-renowned leader in the world of gender equality and all that. But she was having a conversation with her daughter that the grandson walked in and had on red lipstick and had painted his nails red. And she came up out of the ground. I had to have a conversation with her about how disingenuous that really was, because don't make a big deal out of it. He tried on the lipstick and, painted his nails. The little girl's going to go out there and put on daddy's work boots and put on his, his belt. Little girls are taught to be in pink and wear dresses and, paint your nails and do this and do that. So these gender roles are embedded in us and dictated to us, not allowing us as individuals to surface and rise to the occasion on who we are. And I was talking to my mentor. She says, this is this is a fact that individuals can be born with 2 Ys and an X or 2 X and a Y. This is scientifically proven by genome mapping. So folks, you better get in line or you're going to get left behind. Yes, it's different. Yes, it's unnerving because it is so in contrast to what we have been told, taught, feel, and see. But the world is ever evolving. Wait till Lorna comes on and tells us that we're having sex through our foreheads because it's with artificial intelligence. And you're going to be stimulated by AI. You think you got a problem now, So all of these things are changing and they are evolving. But I'm telling you, you have been a wealth of information. Please come back because we can have a whole nother conversation on what's going on. I want to see some of the apparatus. I want to see you done. I want to see.
I'll bring them.
Yeah, I want to see what that looks like so people can really be informed and be educated. Don't assume.
Sure. Yeah. Next time what I'll do is that's what I'll do. And I'll even do some pictures. And even if I do have my camera where I can show my table set up and, the various things, take you on a tour of this is what I've got. So.
Exactly. We'll do everything but look between your legs. You are absolutely wonderful. You're a gift to the people that are curious and queerious, and it is okay to explore who you are. But again, it has to be consensual. Don't violate anyone else. It has to be safe. You need to be clean, and you need to love yourself and really know deep down inside, why are you doing this? If it's just for stimulation and pleasure, that's all right. If you're trying to release trauma, that's okay. If you're trying to please your partner, that's okay. But the most important thing is that you know yourself. Yeah. So tell my Brains how to get in contact with you, because Brains, I want you to get your freak on.
Awesome. Various ways. By email, it can be lorna@lornagale.com, and that's Gale. Gale is Gale. So lorna@lornagale.com. On my Bondassage page, I'm the Maestra there. So the Maestra at bondassage.com. I have also on Facebook, I'm Lorna Gale there. Welcome to send me some messages there. And Yeah, that would be where I also have my page on Trusted Bodywork site, gives a little bit of a listing of some of the things I do. The kink is a part of one of my lists there. There gives you a sense of some of the people that I've worked with, the transformations that they've had. And one couple in there talks about, yeah, I took them through their kink awakening, which was really a brilliant and beautiful thing for them. So those are some of the ways. So on Facebook, lornagale.com, or pardon me, Lorna Gale on Facebook. And I think that would be some of the ways to do.
Well, I'm
contact me.
definitely going to put all of your information. We're going to run this over and over again. Again, this is a mature conversation. It's time for you to grow up.
Yeah. and have
Everything
fun.
is different. If every flower in the garden was the same, it'd be pretty cotton picking boring. Okay.
Yeah.
So now we are learning to explore our sexuality in many different ways and to feel good about who we are and to, reduce the shame because we're ever evolving. So thank you so much, Brains. Go in and love, like, share, and subscribe. Love, like, share, and subscribe here on The Edge. All right. I'm looking forward to it. May you have a titillating afternoon.